Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the briefing room. I'm your host Abawa Hamza, and with me is my co-host Samira Ahmed. So Samira, what do you have for us today?
Right, this week's been another week of deja vu politics in Somalia. Yet again, we have another rape case where, surprise, surprise, the victim and the journalist who have reported the crime have both been arrested. Now, the Somali government have, of course, stated that they can't get involved and they must let justice take its course. This is a complete shame. This is a young woman named Fatima Abdelkader Hassan who told a journalist at the privately owned Shabelle Media Network that she had been raped at gunpoint by her colleagues. And the alleged victim and herself, the journalist who works for Kasma Voice of Women radio station in Mogadishu, are now being criminalized for even having this discussion. The alleged victim stated that I'm appealing to the government to take legal action against the rapists. They might have done the same to other poor girls. I mean, it's a real shame that the government, have been talking this wonderful talk. We heard the rhetoric. They're going to be supporting women. They're fighting against gender-based violence, and human rights is a top priority for them. But then again, it's the repeat of exactly the same thing that happened earlier this year.
It does feel like a deja vu a little bit, because you think that they would have changed the way they handle these kind of cases, and you think they would have changed the way that certain laws are used when it comes to changing things. But what's really interesting for me is it's interesting how they arrest people automatically. In this case, the charges that were brought were charges of defamation. Now, charges of defamation, it's a civil charge. It's supposed to be a civil case, and you're not supposed to arrest someone. People are supposed to have a court case. You can charge someone with it, and obviously they then go to court, and you settle it in court, you settle it outside of court. But it's not a criminal charge, and it shouldn't be a criminal charge. And anywhere around the world, defamation, unless it's combined with something else, is not a criminal charge. But for people to be arrested automatically, it's weird. I don't get it.
I mean, it's definitely creating a real culture of fear. Rape in itself is a taboo topic. Back in the day, if a woman or a female had reported, had been raped, it would not be something that she would share with her family or even her closest friends. And if she had been brave enough to even speak up against it, she would be told, don't speak lies about that man. It was all about protecting the man's reputation. And for this to be happening, obviously, because of the humanitarian situation, because of the lack of government for over 20 years, it is a real problem now. It has become a real epidemic. And it's a shame. I mean, we're hearing government officials saying, well, we don't have the technology to actually test these women. We can't test them for DNA, so we won't be able to actually put her abusers into prison. We won't be able to let them stand trial. For me, I think that's a really weak response, because at the end of the day, we've got the president who's going around all these European nations and going to the States with his begging bowl, collecting money for other things, but he hasn't made this a priority. There's a lot of talk, but there's been a real lack of action, and it's really disappointing.
It's very disappointing, and the part that's even more disappointing, as we said before, is that it's happening again, and it's happening over and over and over again. I mean, especially when it comes to the refugee camps or the IDP camps. There's the last report that we were reading was that there's more than 1,700 counts of rape just over the last year. You think to yourself, that if that's that many, why isn't there something being done about this? And what we then get is a cycle where basically anyone can get away with whatever they want. Now, it's been just over a week and a half, 2 weeks now, where obviously this case is ongoing. They're still in prison, both herself and the journalist who interviewed her. Her two alleged people who raped her were finally arrested as well, and then they were released an hour later. They were just held for questioning, and then an hour later they were let go, purely because obviously of certain influences that they can hold. But you ask yourself, why is it that the victim's being arrested again? Because when she went to go and file suit, nobody wanted to listen to her, and when the authorities didn't want to take her case on, she then went to the reporter. Whereas if somebody else goes to the authorities and says, well, okay, look, this woman is lying about it, does that mean that anytime a woman goes to the authorities, she's not believed, but the man that does go to the authorities is believed? Is it more about who you know than what the actual allegation is? And it gets, I don't know, the justice system for me just gets more and more worrying. And it's that is combined with other stories we were hearing, for example, where in the last 10 days, like 2 court judges have been killed. And it feels like it's a systematic attack on the actual justice system to ensure that no real justice is being done. And it scares me. It scares me that it's happening under the very noses of the Somali government. And because everyone is so busy with everything else, it just gets left in the hands of people who can do whatever they want to do with it.
I know, and when we're having this debate about rape or gender-based violence or anything like this, there are a lot of people that want to put up their hands. No, let's not criticize the government. They've only just got in. It's too early. Give them a chance to actually implement the policies that they've been talking about. Give them a chance to act. That's all well and good, but to me, it's completely unacceptable if this is the second occasion where exactly the same mistakes have been made. Yes, we do need to give them time, but we do need to be pragmatic. This is a real issue. What is going to be done? And I think we actually have a clip from Mariam Qasim on the case itself.
It's totally unacceptable. The government cannot tolerate such incidents. No one can violate the rights of Somali women. We have launched immediate investigations into this matter.
This is the second high-profile case. There are many more cases that are happening that we don't hear about. I mean, we were talking about that count of 1,700, but there's so many times where these things they fly under the radar. You think to yourself, what is next? What needs to change? What needs to happen for real change to occur? But all we can do right now is obviously just try and raise some awareness about it, and we'll follow the case as it goes along.
Right, and with that said, let's move on to our next story. Coming back to the UK, another major story is that Qad is going to be banned from January 2014. And we know a lot of the local campaigners here have been doing an amazing job to really push their cause through. And now, the government has really taken them seriously and put this into effect. Do you think that this is something that was kind of implemented because of the Somali community?
Well, I'm not too sure. I have reservations against the Qad ban itself, but I feel that there's obviously more going on here. Yes, the Somali community has really organized themselves. They went out there, they were lobbying, they were uniting between themselves, they were doing petitions, they were doing everything they could, and it was for the best of what they wanted and what they perceived as being in the best interest of our people, and that I agree with. But then I feel that obviously there's other forces in play. I mean, this is not something new. This has been going on since 2008 when Baroness Wolsey said that, if the Conservatives come into power, we will ban Qad. And this has been several years in the making. And so has the actual campaign itself. But I feel it's more for a strategic decision made by Theresa May than the actual effectiveness of the campaigning. I feel that they just didn't want to be the only country in sort of Western Europe that is still allowing Qad to be imported in. So I feel it's partly because of the campaign and partly because of other reasons.
I mean, the major concern now is that the Home Affairs Committee have released a report against the ban itself. Keith Vaz, who actually grew up in Yemen himself, who's tried Qad himself, said it didn't really have too much of an effect on him and he didn't really see what the cause for concern was. So now we're seeing, unfortunately, the campaign taking a major blowback. Will this kind of change Theresa May's mind? Will this have any impact on the Home Office decision, or do you think that it will continue to push through?
I don't know. So, what we've seen so far from the Home Office and what we've seen so far from Theresa May, she's very, very hard-headed. I think she makes a decision, she sticks with it. She just does anything. I don't think it's very difficult to influence her one way or the other. But having said that, I think that there will be some external pressures on it because it's no longer just the Somalis campaigning and lobbying on one side. It's the Kenyans who are now lobbying on the other side and who have had meetings with the Home Affairs Committee before they brought that report out. And this is happening over and over again. I mean, you got the initial report that was obviously brought out on the effects or the consequences of Qad use or abuse, and it said that obviously there was no legal justification to that they recommended anyways to be able to class this as a Class C drug. So it's Qad. Ultimately, we need to take it away, make sure that because it has really harmful effects on our community, has really harmful effects on our society.
But is it the qad itself, or are there underlying issues that are, causing these problems within our community? At the end of the day, if qad is banned, I truly feel that we do need to have some sort of support mechanisms for those users, especially those who are over abusing the drug itself.
But this depends on who it is that's using it. I mean, you might have certain, maybe the younger generations who's, okay, I think fine, qad's going to be banned, I'll take any alternatives, I'll have any substitutions. They might switch over to shisha, which it's also quite harmful, I suppose, but it's a little bit less harmful than, for example, an alternative would be as alcohol. They might start having some alcohol abuse problems. Some of our elders in our community might not do the same, some might, but they might switch over to anything else. The hope ultimately is that if you ban qad, then the alternative will be something productive, where they will go to work and they will spend more time with their family and they will take care of their wife and kids and whatever else not. But there are those who do all of that and just want to do this on the weekend. They just want to go sit, chill with their friends, or even chill at home and choose some qad. And you think to yourself, they are the ones who are being unduly punished because they are fulfilling all their responsibilities. They are going to work, they are making money, they are taking care of their families, they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, but they're now having a certain part of their social activity being taken away. And I don't want to be able to have them punished. What I also don't want is, I don't want anyone to be unduly criminalized, and I think there should be certain phases. If this qad ban is going to go ahead, there should be certain phases. There should be a certain phase where it's obviously the import of it becomes illegal, and within that obviously there are strict fines and jail terms. Then after that you can have, okay fine, after a period of 6 months, then the qad use can have certain fines attached to it, and possession. And then after maybe a year or 18 months, after people have waned off the actual continuous stream that's coming in, then you can perhaps say, okay fine, anything after this point, anything after a year or 18 months will face I don't know, £500 fine and some jail time. And that allows people to get used to the idea a little bit more, allows them to change their lives. It doesn't automatically and instantly criminalize them, and then it allows for the support services that are going to be put into place, or that need to be put into place, allows them to build themselves up as well, because you're not going to have an ultimately perfect or effective support service in one go anyway. So you need to be able to give yourself a chance to build that up. So in my opinion, the qad ban is good. There's other reasons for it. Whether it's actually going to go ahead on January 8th, I'm not too sure yet. But if it is, it should be done in a phased approach, in my opinion.
I agree. There's definitely going to be some social and cultural impacts of this ban. There are a lot of things that we haven't perhaps really thought about. We talk about the missing father, absentee fathers who are not really there because of qad. But the mother and children have forged such a strong bond that they've learned how to survive without the father. So he's no longer allowed to go out. He doesn't have somewhere where he can go and socialize. He comes back. The children go to be turning around to their father. Who is this man who's instructing me and telling me what to do? So it'll be interesting to see how the family dynamics change because of that, and how easy it will be for things to kind of go back to a normal family structure.
Normal nuclear family structure, as people
if there's such thing for the Somali community anyway.
I don't know. But we'll leave it there for now. Thank you for watching. Obviously I hope to catch you after the break. My name is Owo Hamza, this is my co-host Samira, and you've been watching The Briefing Room. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of The Briefing Room. I'm your host Samira Ahmed. I'm very pleased today to have Somali-born London councillor Awale Olad. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I think this is a fantastic show. Thank you for inviting me to come here and speak to you guys.
Brilliant. Well, for us, you're definitely, we see you as a Somali success story. You are one of the perfect pictures of integration. I mean, you've grown up in London, graduated from King's College, worked in Parliament, and now you're representing your local area as a Labour councillor. Now, obviously, the Somali community is one of the most infamous communities in terms of trying to get them to integrate. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, you have to put everything into historical context. We came here as refugees. We didn't come here as economic migrants. People who come here as economic migrants come here to invest. They come here to invest their lives, their money, everything. And they're here for the long term. We came here as refugees. We were forced to come here. And as you know, so many Somali families around the country still have their bags packed, ready to go back home any minute, which is I guess is one of the issues that we're facing at the moment, because we didn't come here to completely integrate, to completely invest in what the country here has to offer us.
I mean, that is a major issue. Obviously, a lot of us do still have that psychological attachment to home, and kind of one foot here and one foot back home. But obviously, there's a huge immigration debate that's going on in the UK at the moment, and it's turning uglier by the day. All of the major political parties are trying to get tougher on immigration because that's what they believe that the public wants. And because the narrative is turning so nasty, do you think that it's time for the Somali people to kind of wake up and make their voices heard?
Absolutely. I think for the last few years, the immigration debate has been less about how can immigration benefit the country, and more about how can we reduce immigration. In 2010, the Conservatives came in with the manifesto commitment to reduce immigration from hundreds of thousands to tens of thousands. So the actual mainstream politics of this whole issue is geared towards reducing the number of immigrants coming to the country, no matter what they're coming in for, which is going to directly impact on the Somali community, because the Somali community, as you know, for the last 10, 15, 20 years have been coming here in drones, and they've come here mainly as refugees. But the later waves came here from once they've been naturalized in different countries in Europe. But then again, the European migrants wouldn't be affected as much as non-EU migrants. The whole policy, the whole current government policy is geared towards reducing the number of non-EU migrants coming into the country. And of course, Somalis are non-EU migrants, so this is going to impact them more than anybody else. Yeah,
I know that you're also working at the Migrant Rights Network as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing there?
Well, the Migrant Rights Network, it was a charity set up a few years ago by my boss, Don Flynn. My particular job there is to coordinate the all-party parliamentary group on migration as a parliamentary officer. So my job is to facilitate cross-party debate, to try and build some kind of consensus amongst the political parties in the UK by working directly in Parliament with them and advising them on immigration policy and advising them on how best we can deliver a fair, effective immigration system without having to curb the rights of immigrants in the country.
Right, I'm not too sure how much work your organisation does around deportation, but obviously since the Somali federal government has now been re-established and been put in place, we're seeing a number of European nations deporting Somalis back home, even though it's not safe. That's obviously a huge human rights issue. Do you have any experience in this area? Have you come across any cases?
Well, we're not a service delivery organisation, but we do understand whole issues around deportation. We're very much aware of the issues. One of the issues we're currently trying to work with within the government's immigration policy, with the government's new immigration bill, is to deal with the massive problem of reducing people's rights through Article 8, where people want to stay in a country, but they're saying, well, no, we're going to kick you out first. We're going to deport you back to your country. And then you can appeal from there. Or imagine trying to appeal from Somalia, for God's sake. What's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
So it's one of the big problems we're trying to face. And the whole debate usually centres on, as you remember, Abu Qatada, who was quite an infamous name in the UK. So the government's used him as an excuse to completely reduce the rights of immigrants in the country, and actually reduce the rights of most of people, non-immigrants in the country at the same time in this current immigration bill. So the immigration bill will impact Somali community badly, especially if you've got a pending appeal or a pending case within Home Office or the UKBA. If they reject your application, the government can actually kick you out, send you back to Somalia, and then they'll tell you can appeal from Somalia, where you have absolutely no administrative backing whatsoever in that country. So imagine having to go back to Somalia and appeal from there to come back to the UK and actually become a naturalised citizen here. It's completely geared towards not letting you come into the UK and not letting you stay here.
Yeah, most definitely sounds like it will have a devastating impact.
Massive impact on the Somali community.
Now, we've really been silent on these issues. Yeah. What would your advice be to a lot of the civil society organisations that are out there? Because we have over 300 that are registered at the moment in the UK in terms of lobbying the government around these policies. What is the best approach for us in order to get our voices heard?
Well, civil society have their own interests. So charities most of the time will have an issue they're campaigning really hard on. At Migrant Rights Network, we're really campaigning really hard on the family migration issue. So if you're a Somali and you fall in love with a foreigner, and you want to bring them to the UK, you have to be earning at least £18,600. And as you know, as a community, we're not that wealthy. We don't earn that much money, which means we're impacted more than most other communities. So as the Migrants' Rights Network, we've been campaigning for a very long time to try and get these rules changed and dropped, because it affects people disproportionately and it's really unfair. Civil society has a role to play, but the real people in this country have the power, really and truly. They need to lobby their local MPs. They need to tell them these rules are unfair. You need to change them, otherwise you're not going to get my vote. And that's the kind of route we should be going down at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some great work from campaigners around the Qad issue. Now that the ban has been put in place and will become effective in January, but do you think that it was really as a result of these campaigners, or do you think there were other issues that were really pushing the ban through?
There's a lot of politics behind the CAT problem, but I know for a fact that the previous Labour government were lobbied very, very hard by a group of Somalis, and once the Labour government was ready to actually take action, that group of Somalis pulled out and said, no, sorry, we can no longer support it, because actually we've realised we're going to be the bad guys here in the whole issue, because we're the ones who push it. So you're absolutely right. It was a group of very committed Somali people who actually pushed the last Labour government really hard to get this changed. The incoming government, the Conservative government, also proposed to put a ban on Qad, or to at least reclassify it as as Class C drug, and that was again as a result of really good people like Abubakar Awale, who campaigned really, really hard to try and get this particular issue changed within the government. And given that almost all the other European countries have also put a ban on it, why is the UK the only country not considering it? Because it's worth £150 million in tax receipts.
Yeah, and personally, where do you stand on the whole Qad ban?
I'm very much in favour of banning Qad, but the only caveat to go with that is I completely believe in the ban, but I think criminalising people who use it is the wrong way to go. But I think cracking down on the actual trade is the right thing to do.
Right. Okay. And what is your vision for the Somali community here in Britain? Ideally, where would you like us to be in about 10 years' time?
I would like all of us owning homes, which is impossible with the current UK economic climate. But I would want us all to be very much. I want us to become the stakeholders. Basically, I want us to be fully engaged with our civic duties. I want us to have the best jobs. I want us to have the best positions in the country. I want us to be in Parliament. I want us to be in politics. And I actually want us to engage very much in the rebuilding of Somalia. I think that's the best way. I think that's the only, that's the only way we can actually rebuild our country, by actually making sure we're built up here. And that's my vision. I mean, I don't think I can achieve it personally. I don't speak for the whole Somali community. Absolutely not. Everybody speaks for themselves. But I think going forward, I think that's going to be very important, that we become established, that we become part of the system, that we become serious stakeholders that people respect and fear.
Right. And on that note, do you have any political aspirations to perhaps stand as an MP?
I'm very happy being a councillor.
Well, should you ever choose to run, you do have the